We keep talking about diversity this, diversity that. Thank you, Lynn, for that. Totally forgot. Thank you. Oh gosh, I am loving this afternoon. Thank you so much. So the importance of diversity. So when we talk about diversity, it comes in so many different facets, right? And so when we talk about, diversity, we often think race and gender. Those are pretty much the two main focal points when we talk about diversity. But when we really start digging into, the various protected classes, how we live, who we are, how we represent ourselves, the overall cultural iceberg, as people often talk about, oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's generally the tip of diversity, right? When we look at what we see on the outside, doesn't necessarily mean that is what we see on the inside. Because inside we have multi-dimensional layers upon multi-dimensional layers. And so this is what this conversation is about. And how can we do better at College of the Canyons? So I am super thankful. Before we begin, my name is Flavio Medina Martin. I am the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for the Office of Diversity and Inclusion within the area of human resources. And I am beyond proud of our panel members today. Our student leaders have been able to evolve and grow as individuals, as professionals, as student leaders on campus. And I could not be more thrilled to have them on our panel today. I'm gonna go around and have everyone introduce themselves. And also, let us know who you are, last name, first name, and what is your area of specialty or your area of study? Are you going to be transferring in? What do you aspire to be? And Samantha McCray, yes, I will start with you. Jump on in.
So hi, I'm Samantha McCray, and my major right now is Administration of Justice. And this is my first year at COC, and I do plan to transfer to Fresno State, where I will be studying criminology, and after that, go to law school.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, I'm loving it. Norain Syed, jump on in.
Hi guys, my name is Norain Syed. This is my third year here at COC. I am currently a bio major. I'm transferring as a neuroscience major, and I plan on becoming a neuroscience researcher.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I can't even spell all of that. I love it. Brian Estrella Murphy, jump on in.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Brian Estrella Murphy. I am a queer Latinx student. I am a molecular cell biology major, and I'm hoping to some point go to medical school. And if not medical school, I'd love to go into research to really help with marginalized communities to see what we can really do to advance medicine.
Love it, love it, love it. Ryan Ross, jump on in.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Ross. I'm a third-year student at COC, and I'm studying business administration. And I plan on transferring to an HBCU, Howard preferably, and studying business management. And I want to get my master's in business.
Love it, love it. Thank you so much, Ryan. Emily Correa. Oh, Emily, I think you're muted.
Oh, no, I totally forgot. I'm so sorry. Okay, well, my name is Emily Correa. I'm a third-year college student with ASG as the Cultural Student Involvement Coordinator. It is my third year, and I'm majoring in biology, but I want to major in animal science and hopefully transfer to UC Davis in order to become a vet.
Oh, wow. That is so cool. I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah, doggies and pets are just like our life, right? They're our family members.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that.
My dog is currently keeping me sane, like during quarantine. Without her, yeah, I don't know where I'll be.
Yeah, I mean, you always say, okay, well, let me go over there because they probably need me. And I'm like, no, I think we probably need them more. We need them more than they need us. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to share my screen if I could. And so what I want to do is I want to start off first. Let me see if you all can hear me or see our faces and see the backdrop. So we're going to be kind of going back and forth in as far as like the overall discussion for today. So again, thank you all so much for our panel members. But yeah, let's dive into who we are. So one of the biggest questions we get asked is, yeah, how do we identify ourselves? Do we identify ourselves as X, Y, Z? And it's important for people to know who I am because yes, we all multi-dimensional. And it's important for me, for people to know who I am in terms of my identity, who I identify with, what characteristics I identify with, my background, my lived experiences. That is what makes me who I am. So as part of our introduction, I know we talked about last name, first name, and what our discipline or our expertise, what our field is going to be. But I would love to get to know you a little bit more. So in terms of like who you identify as, Brian, Esteria Murphy, I will start with you. When people ask you, how do you identify? What are some of the items that you talk about when you identify yourself and describe yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. The moment that I really introduce myself to someone, I tell them that I am a openly queer Latinx student. I tell them that I identify with the LGBTQIA community and that I also identify with non-binary gender conforming students, just like every other student.
And so when we talk about non-binary, for example, if you identify as that, why is it important for people to understand that sort of broad lens of your identity? Why is that important for us to talk about?
It's absolutely important to talk about because if we don't talk about it, then everybody can just resort to assumptions and biases. We really get stuck with just the cis heteronormative societal expectations of students and individuals. And when we really put it out there to talk about what is it to be non-binary, we really allow people to bring their own individualistic qualities to the table. They can really express themselves and how they identify themselves as.
Yeah, and identification is super important for all of us. So thank you so much for sharing that. Samantha McCray, when people ask you how you identify, and you know, there's so many different layers to it. What do you identify as?
Well, I think the biggest thing is I am mixed right down the middle. My dad is African American and my mom's family actually immigrated from Germany. So I have that sort of tightrope that I walk of like, oh, I'm half this and half that. And so it's really important for me to like tell people that way they know of my experiences.
And does it make it just that much more challenging for you? Or is it more of like, ooh, yay, I get to showcase all of my personality or my identities within my personality? What are your viewpoints on that? Is it more challenging or is it sort of like one of those, you know, cursed blessings?
I would say in some aspects it is more challenging because really fully identify with one or the other because you do have aspects of both. But also in that way, I think it's great because I have so many like German traditions that I get to do, especially over over Christmas and all of that sort of thing. So I think it's a blessing in disguise.
Excellent. So you get like multiple holidays, right, too?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Emily Correa, so how do you identify when people ask you about yourself?
Well, the biggest thing that I identify as is Latina. My mom, she came here from Mexico when she was like about 17, and my dad, he came here from Ecuador when he was about 14. And I think it's important to share that because like it just shows that we don't like all Latinos, like they don't look like we don't look the same at all. Like there's different types of Latinos. Like there's Black Latinos, there's Afro Latinos, there's Asian Latinos, and we all don't fit into one category, which is really great.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have cousins who look like this image right here. So yeah. Ryan Ross, tell us about how do you identify when people ask you, what are you? That question that we all get asked.
Well, as the song in the introduction said, I am human. but I am an African American male. I identify as African American male, Black, and I am a child of God.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Does religion play a big role in your identity?
Yes, it does. And it even more recently now that I recently got saved through Christ, and it just plays a huge role in my life in shaping who I am as a person and in my progression through life.
Does it help to see things a little bit more clear for you when you start thinking about these experiences that you have?
I think it really has helped me see things more clear in a way, because I felt at one point I felt kind of lost in this world, and I felt like I kind of got that guidance through my faith, and because of that, I'm able to just self-regulate and have self-awareness better than I did before, I would say. So
thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, Ryan. We'll come back to that. Noreen, how are you doing? How do you identify yourself when people ask you, where do you come from, or who are you?
Well, first and foremost, I am Muslim. That's my biggest identity. That's what I identify most as. I follow my beliefs, my morals, everything is centered around that. Second, I'm from India. I am Indian. My whole cultural background is India. So that is what I identify as. I'm a Muslim and I'm Indian.
Noreen, if you were in a place that you would not be able to display or showcase the various talents, how do you think that would affect you?
I feel like that would make me isolated, not being able to share who I am, my culture, my religion. I think not having to express that part of myself, I would lose a part of myself. So that's why I think it's so important that I'm able to be here and showcase who I really am and represent those who are like me.
Is it important for us to talk about, what efforts the campus is doing to showcase people who look like you, walk like you, talk like you, which we'll get into a little bit. But does that create a more welcoming experience for you? Or when you see people who look like you on campus, what does that do to you? Or yeah.
Yeah, when I do see people wearing the hijab, like when I see other women around me who wear the hijab, it makes me feel better that I'm not alone, because you don't see a lot of hijabis, especially around the campus community. It's pretty rare, but when I do have that rare occasion, it makes me feel a little bit more empowered, and it makes me it reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that it's really important. Everything that you just spoke about, it really adds on, and what Ryan was talking about, it adds on to that diversity lens that we all have and that we all grow. Because if you think about, Brian Estrella Murphy 2021 is different than Brian Estrella Murphy 2015. You learn with your experiences, you start learning and growing and evolving as an individual. Your students right now, you're going to end up going into the workforce if you aren't already. And so you carry all of these lessons learned along the way. So Ryan Ross, let me ask you. So when we talk about diversity, help me complete the sentence. So diversity is, finish the sentence, and then say, why is it important for us to have diversity on campus?
Well, diversity is key. If there's a word for me, it's key. And I feel like diversity is important on campus because it just provides a sense of comfortable community, and it gives everyone a sense of, okay, I can be in this place and I know that I'm accepted no matter what, because everyone is here, no matter if they look like me. There's so many different faces. I'm not going to be singled out or left out because of the acceptance of all cultures and religions and just people.
Thank you so much for that. So yes, diversity. Emily, diversity is
important for you. Diversity is important since it's about including everybody in a conversation, no matter their sex, race, orientation, or religion. And I think it's important to have diversity on campus because students will be able to learn about different cultures and different backgrounds before moving on to their careers. And this can really help students become like more open-minded and help them interact with everybody that they're working with more equally now and in the future.
Love it. Thank you so much for that. Noreen, same question. Diversity is?
Diversity is acceptance. Like for so long, I think I've struggled with being able to feel accepted, and I think only now I feel comfortable in my skin, and I hope that everyone else gets to that point as well. But we can only have that with diversity, with acceptance, with inclusion.
So Noreen, I'll throw in an added bonus question for you. So be comfortable in your own skin. When you're not, what does that do to you? And does that hinder your growth?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it tears the person down, because not being able to be who you truly are and like being accepted by your community, I feel like you just feel isolated and you try to become a person that everyone else is like, but in the process you kind of lose yourself. And what's the point in doing that when you're only going to break yourself down just to feel accepted by others?
Yeah, it's about authenticity, right? Just being yourself, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think if we've learned just along the way, you know, for those of you who don't know, I've actually been in human resources for about like 15 years now, and I've been in overall education for almost 29 years. And so when we think about being ourselves and we think about having a welcoming environment, if there's anything that we've learned along the way is that you are at your best when you feel welcomed, you feel accepted, and you feel that you can be yourself in the comfort of your own skin. So Samantha McCray, same question. We talk about diversity and the importance of it on campus. So diversity is what for you?
I think diversity is everything, in the literal and figurative sense, that diversity is in everything around us, but it's also anything that makes us different from each other. However you identify experiences, anything you've gone through, that's diversity, and it makes us different. And I think it's important because I believe that representation is important. And it's really important to be able to see yourself in like a certain area that you want to be in. And I also think that difference of opinion and experiences can also lead to amazing ideas, because I don't think that anything important would have gotten done if it wasn't for a difference of opinion.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, definitely. Anytime you have a difference of opinion, or even I'm actually a fan of conflict, right? So when we talk about conflict resolution, when you move past, you know, the difference of opinion and you reach a sort of like a common ground, equal level of understanding, of mutual respect, then you start understanding where everyone is coming from. And so, you know, and that definitely adds on to that layer of diversity. So Brian, your input on diversity is, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I wrote down a little bit of notes. So diversity to me is really just removing our innate instinct of assumptions and biases towards individuals, as it's really just a way of creating a framework in which individuals may express their journey, their knowledge about themselves, their surroundings, and in institutions, in which they can really provide their own insight on a platform for foundational information and really just personalizing their own self. And so why that's important on campus is because it really helps to ensure that we have a creative and constructive environment for all students from all backgrounds, all views of life, so that they can all have their independent, unique views that don't just fall to the same cis heteronormative that can then become an assumption or bias.
Yeah, and do you think that and we'll talk a little bit about biases and both implicit and explicit biases. But here's your added question, Brian. So do you think that we could ever eliminate our biases?
I think since we're human beings, we're always going to have a bias, but what we can do is we can break down those biases. I think the first step is really just coming together as a community and talking to each other and really just saying, this is what I believe, what do you believe? Okay, let's resolve the conflict and really come together to get rid of these biases.
And when it comes to, you know, looking at biases, life experiences, do you think that diversity has a face?
Yeah, diversity definitely has a face. Everybody comes from a different background. Some people will come from wealthier families. Some people will come from less wealthy families. People can come from marginalized groups. Diversity has a face. It has a story behind the face too. Diversity is a story for each individual person.
I love it. So I switched I don't know if you can see that I'm switching like the slides. Noreen is like in awe because hopefully she'll recognize someone on there. So when we talk about those faces and what diversity looks like, what kind of, we sort of touched upon it, a little bit. What does diversity bring to the campus? Why we talked about the importance of it, but what are some of the benefits of it contextually? Ryan, Ross, I'll start with you. What are some of the benefits that we can have on campus, and what does diversity bring to the campus?
Well, like Noreen said, I feel like diversity helps us get better ideas and helps us collaborate better and work better together. So when we move on to a professional workplace and there is diversity there, we know how to work with each other. We know how to understand each other. And I feel like that is important on campus, because being in those classrooms with people who look extremely different from each other and knowing how to talk to them and knowing how to approach them and knowing how to work with them just it gives you that expertise that you will need in your career when you get into the workplace.
I love it. Love it. Noreen, what are your thoughts about what that looks like?
I mean, I think diversity looks like us right here. This whole panel, everyone in this room, we all have come from different backgrounds, different experiences. And I think those individualized experiences make us who we are. It's not just the color of our skin. It's not just our religion, what we believe in. It's also what we've experienced. That's what all makes us diverse. And that's how we can truly learn from each other, get different ideas, experiences. That's how we grow as a humanity, just knowing each other, like learning about each other.
Great. Thank you so much for that. So I have another question for each of you. So it's going to require just a one answer, which I know you'll answer right. Noreen, do you consider yourself a future boss?
Yeah, I think so. I would hope so.
Brian?
Definitely.
Ryan?
I mean, I don't want to be cocky, but I consider myself a boss right now.
Woo! Yes, I love it. Woo! Emily?
Yeah, I would consider myself a future boss. I can't top Brian Ross's answer though. Was amazing.
I don't think any one of us could. Samantha McCray, are you a boss? You considered yourself a boss?
Definitely.
I love it. So this next video that I want to show is actually for all of us future bosses to think about. Let's see if you can see my screen. Can you see?
No.
No? Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So feedback, Noreen, thoughts? What'd you think of the video? And so that's question one. And question two is, when we think about diversity on campus, how important is it for us to look at ourselves when we go into the workplace?
Sorry, could you repeat the first part? You were kind of cut out from the music.
Sorry. So what'd you think of the video? And two, how important is it for us to look at ourselves in terms of like how we go into the workplace?
Well, I personally love the video. I think it encompassed what a workplace should look like. We shouldn't be looking at all these different biases that we create for ourselves, all these little narratives. I think we should look at the individual as a person, who they are, what they bring to the table, rather than bringing in all these little biases, such as like race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and all that.
Brian, same question.
Yeah, I thought it was an absolutely great video. I think they really captured what diversity is in a video, as well as really could be informational for others to really see and understand if they don't identify as one of those individuals. They can say, oh, wow, okay, so this is diversity. I should look more into how I can be more diverse and how I can contribute more to diversity.
Yes, thank you so much. Are you able to see my screen now? Yeah. So Ryan, Ross, when we look at this video, so two questions. One, what'd you think of the video? And two, how important is it for us to look at ourselves when we go into the workforce?
I thought the video was amazing, honestly. Every aspect of it. It was very important, just everything that was being described in the video. I think the video, I think it's important to look at ourselves, just at what we can bring to the table. And I think everyone should look at that as well. Just what we can bring what we can bring to the table, not what we look like, not who we identify as, but understanding those things, but mainly focusing on what we can bring to the table.
Thank you. Samantha, do you think that looking at ourselves, just, this frame of mind, this logic that we have for us on campus, it's important that we see our students, that the students see themselves in our faculty and our staff and all of that. How important is that in the workplace as well?
I think
the video too.
I think, answering the second question, I guess, I think it's very important to see that in the workplace, especially when you're new in the workplace and you do want the opportunity to move up. Say you start like at a low level position, maybe one day you want to be a manager or a director at whatever company it is. I think it's important to see that there is someone who looks like you or has the same background as you or talks like you in that position. So that way you think, oh, like it is possible to get there. Like I can do it. Maybe I should ask them like how they did it. And it's important to see that. So that way you kind of have like a blueprint and just to have the confidence in yourself that like, yes, I can get up there and I can do that. And I thought the video was great at showing just how much diversity there actually is. I feel like there were a lot in the video that not that many people think of when we hear diversity. I think most people just think of, oh, like different race, different gender, different religion, different sexuality, but there's disabilities and all these other different things that are also part of diversity.
Yeah. Emily, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Good. So what are your thoughts about the video? And two, how important is it for us to look at ourselves in the workplace as well?
I thought the video was really well put together. It really shows like how people can like have the different think of different stereotypes and not see someone as who they really are, and like how they can and what they can do to bring like diversity into the workplace, and what they can bring to the table as well. And the benefits of a diverse workplace is I know we said it before, but it is important. It is a really good benefit is having different perspectives, and everybody can have different opinions and see how other people live and live life.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. So yeah, when we talk about our lived experiences, you know, you inadvertently, good, bad, and everything in between, we end up having to, you know, have this lens where we bring our full, you know, our solid foot forward, as they say. But with us, we bring with us our experiences, you know, again, good, bad, and everything in between. My next question, Ryan, for you is, do you think that when we look at our biases, do you think that they play a role in how we treat others? And if so, how does that like map themselves out when we see someone who looks like us, talks like us, has the same skin color as us? What are some of those behaviors that we notice about ourselves when we see someone who looks like us?
I feel like those biases tend to put people in categories, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. I mean, I feel most times bad, but I feel like it's wrong. Having those biases is just wrong because you can assume something that's not true, and you can think something about somebody, and it can be totally false, as if you just assuming that that person is not capable, that that person is not willing enough, when that's not the case, when that person has a huge resume that you don't even know about. So I think that having those biases can really distort certain things that aren't true, and I feel like biases should just be eliminated, or just on the basis of just understanding, because we should just be willing to understand, talk to somebody and understand where they come from, understand how they got to where they are today, understand what they're going through and what they go through every day to just bring together community.
Yeah, I know some of the things that we talk about, you know, when we talk about the explicit biases, implicit biases, explicit, you know, are biases that are just overt. You automatically make these actions based on something on the outside, whether it's systemic and organizational, structural, even our own automatic reactions, right? So when we talk about implicit biases, I always have my HR hat on. So I think I was meant to be in HR since I was like 15, 16 years old. When I saw myself as a student, you know, I would say, all right, well, you know, I'm in my classroom. So Brian, my next question is to you. When you are in the classroom, you start seeing the evolution of students who are in essence, in the educational world. These are your colleagues, right? Like when you're looking at it in a classroom setting, what are some assumptions about other students that we should really kind of leave at the door when we talk about, you know, again, going back to our both our explicit and our implicit biases, that we might think, oh, I don't want to be in the group with that person. Based on what, right? So what are some thoughts about checking those biases in front of the classroom door when we go into the classroom? How does that pan out for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody has an implicit bias that we can all work on to some degree. I think especially in the educational institutions, we've all formed a bias that was passed down from generation to generation, what our grandparents have brought down to their parents that have brought down to you. We all have some sort of bias towards a different student that might not look like you. And a lot of times it's not your fault because it's a generational thing, but it's something you can work on. So for me, I'm in an educational institution, and I have to catch myself sometimes when I'm working with a group of students that I can't just assume because they're so-and-so that they're not going to do the work, or they're so-and-so, so they're not going to work as hard as I work. I have to step out of my own zone and realize these students may not look like me, may not sound like me, but they might just be as brilliant or even more brilliant than me, because certain barriers don't restrict your educational abilities.
I love it. Noreen, you're shaking your head agreeing. What are your thoughts about how you treat your fellow students? I want to keep saying fellow colleagues because of my HR brain, you know, but how do you check yourself before you wreck yourself?
I think, you know what, we all have biases, you know, we all have biases that control, manipulate our minds to believing certain things, but I also feel like biases can be good and bad. Biases do help us like try to figure out the individual as a person, but working on that bias, or I guess like thinking on that bias and actually putting it into action, that's where it does more harm than good. Like understanding or realizing, or I guess seeing certain stereotypes, I don't think that's the issue. I think acting on that and negatively, I guess, pursuing that idea to that person is what the harm does. Because we all have to have bias as like as some sort of comfort. Like if we see people who identify with us on the street, we do feel comfort with that. But then taking that and reversing the role, if we see a person who we don't like, or like stereotypes that we don't agree with in the street, we start to back away from them. And we shouldn't do that. So I think we should identify these stereotypes and biases, but not allow it to play a role within our lives, not allow it to affect us. We need to like break down that those ideas, that stereotype we have in our head, and just kind of rebuild ourselves to understand that there are different people that you may not agree with, that you may not identify with, but that doesn't make them any less human than all of us.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Noreen. Samantha, going on to feeding off of Noreen's thought, and acting on these, these assumptions and these stereotypes. Do you think that some of these stereotypes truly like cloud your judgment when you're working with your colleagues / classmates?
Well, I think personally that they don't, just because like I had said earlier, I did grow up in two different ethnicities and two different like ways of life. So I've seen stereotypes on both sides, and I've had stereotypes against me on both sides. And so I can see how seeing those stereotypes, like I can see them, but I don't think the same as maybe somebody would who was just all of like one ethnicity versus two.
So there's a moment in time where you, instead of like being pulled from it, you're actually being brought in because of it.
Yeah.
So Emily, same question. When you are in a classroom setting and you start looking at, you start making these assumptions about your classmates / colleagues in the classroom, has there ever been a moment in time where you're just like, well, no, based on this experience, I feel like I'm treating this person different because of X and I need to stop? Or have you ever had a self-reflective moment like that? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I definitely did have I do have some implicit bias. I try not to let it happen, mostly because like we're all different. We all don't come from one place, and personally, yes, like I did have like implicit bias happen to me. Like I'm white, and people always think, oh, I didn't know like you spoke Spanish. I didn't know like you're Mexican and Ecuadorian. That's so interesting. But like for me, like I just tell them, yeah, like I am Mexican and I am Ecuadorian because we all don't look the same. We all come from different backgrounds, and it's important to remember that.
Yeah. Do you think that adds on to the conversation, to the spiciness of it all?
Yeah, definitely it does.
Yeah. So Brian, what do you think about when we talk about, when we look at our biases, yes, but when we look at the clouding of of our own judgment, and we start looking at stereotypes and assumptions within the classroom, is there ever a good time where you stereotype? Is that ever a positive thing?
Was that for Ryan or for me?
No, for you.
Okay. So yeah, this is a tough one because the truth is, it's very easy for assumptions to cloud up and take over assumptions of your own. It's very easy for you to play into these things. It's very hard to stop yourself at the door and say, no, this is not how it is. And it has happened to me. I've definitely built assumptions about people, and I've also had assumptions built about me. And going on to the next part of, you said, how does it cloud?
Yeah, how does it cloud your judgment?
Yeah, so it starts from educational institutions, and then it goes out of that. It goes into your daily life. So you're dragging those assumptions out that classroom door, and you're adding that assumption to every person that fits in that category. And unfortunately, not everybody fits in that same category. Because of one bad experience or one bad assumption you've had of one person, you're going to start classifying that to everybody else that may look the same as them. And yeah, that'll definitely cloud, because then you have a very bad bias built towards these people.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for us to have this sort of like, you know, we grow, we evolve, we grow, we evolve, we change. What's missing?
Yeah, that's a good question. What is missing?
I'll let you know. Hold on. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He didn't give me enough pause time. Ryan Ross, self-reflection. So when we start talking about that self-reflective moment, yes, we grow, we evolve. How do you self-reflect? You're on mute, Ryan.
Once again, but I self-reflect by thinking about what I can do differently and thinking about honestly what I can miss out. When I think about things about being biased, I honestly just sometimes I am biased. I gotta admit, just like everyone else. But you realize a lot of things you miss out on when you kind of have that clouded judgment. You miss out on certain experiences, certain lessons, and just learning new things just because I guess you don't want to interact with somebody because of the bias that you have. And I feel like sometimes I have that bias and I would be like, all right, maybe I need to stop having a bias. Maybe I should talk to this person. I go talk to them. I learn something new that I would have never even thought about before. I never even would have I guess, a situation that just would have never approached me before. And I feel like that's cool because talking to that person in class I feel like when I was younger, I would always have a bias and not talk to a certain, I guess a kid that I would feel like, all right, that kid is weird or something like that. I would assume a kid was weird. But I was like, no, I'm gonna go talk to him. And I learned some things about him and something that we can relate with that just changed my whole mindset on things and changed my appreciation for certain people and appreciation for just for I guess the kids that didn't get a lot of attention. And because of that, I started just talking to them anytime I could. See those kids who were just, I guess you could say, outcasts, unfortunately. But I would talk to them and I would learn a lot of things. And then it really changed who I was as a person. So I feel like having those biases can really cloud our judgment and cloud our growth and like hurt our growth as human beings, because we learn so many new things from different people. And if we're just stuck in the same box and in the same thinking, how would I say it? I mean, I want to call it a cage, but I would say a thinking cage. We're kind of like in a cage when we're stuck in those biases. And when we breach out of those cages, we learn new things, and it just helps us grow as human beings.
Yeah, it's this mindset that you create for yourself. You know, so thank you so much for sharing that experience. Noreen, I'm going to come back to Brian in a little bit, right? Because I want to know how he self-reflects. But Noreen, how are you doing? And how do you self-reflect when you are, wanting to learn about someone who doesn't walk like you, talk like you, have the same skin color as you, and you jump into that assumption path?
Well, your first question, I'm doing well, thank you. Second question, I feel like I do catch myself a lot when I do see people who maybe like rub me off the wrong way, like act a certain way, do something. But I usually like catch myself at times and I think to myself, like, what are you doing? Because like they could be doing the same thing to you, but why do that to other people? Because you don't know what they've been through. You don't know what their day is like. They could have had a really rough day and they're kind of letting it out on you, or they could have had a different upbringing that made them the way they are. And the fact that I'm judging them, or I'm putting this narrative on them without really understanding them, that's wrong of me. And I feel like I catch myself and I'm like, well, I shouldn't be doing that. And I take a step back. I think to myself, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And then I try to pursue like a conversation, or like I try to be like, oh, hey, are you okay? How's your day, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of breaking down that bias I've built up in my head, or that's been built up by people around me. Because I think for bias, it's also a big cultural thing that has been ingrained into my mind. And I think it's been conditioned. So I feel like now I'm in the part of my life where I'm breaking down those conditions, and I'm breaking down what's been ingrained in my mind and trying to rebuild myself to make sure I am the best person I can be, not only for myself, but for the people around me.
I love it. Thank you so much, Noreen. And I think building yourself, taking a step back, those are all areas of not just maturity, but also conviction and confidence. So Samantha, my next question is to you. When we start looking at self-reflection and ownership, right? Because basically that's what it is. It's like these sort of paths that you've little by little kind of stumbled on, and making these stereotypes about a certain race, about a gender, about people of a certain nation. Owning these assumptions is super important. Samantha, so how do you own these biases, and how do you self-reflect?
Well, I think a really big part of self-reflection and just in general is realizing that you actually have those biases, and that you play into those stereotypes, and that you believe those stereotypes. And so for me personally, sort of owning it would be like realizing, okay, why did I think that in the first place? Like, did this have to do with something that I learned either in school? Did I learn this from my family? Did I learn it like from my friends? Is it something that I can get rid of? Like maybe it's a friend who's spewing hate or whatever. Like, do I need to get rid of that friend? Like, what can I do so that way I no longer am hearing bad things about a certain group of people?
And when we talk about a certain group of people, when we talk about the concept of power, for example, Emily, my next question is to you. When we talk about information and power, people who walk like us, talk like us, people who don't walk like us, talk like us, the concept of power and influence, does that play a role in what direction diversity takes? Emily, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think biases and stereotyping does play a huge role in diversity, especially like in the workplace and especially on campus, because a person like may not want to include a person simply because they think like negatively of them due to the amount of biases they have against them.
Yeah, and when we talk about Brian, my next question is to you. Well, one, I want to go back to that self-reflection. I want to know how do you own, the concept of biases? And then the second question is power and privilege. What do you think of when you hear the words power and privilege?
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of get through the first one a little bit quickly, as I was younger, I was bullied for being gay. And because of that, I saw all those people and I believed them to be bullies. And I built my own assumptions about these people. But as we matured and grew up, I carried this baggage along with me. And when I got older, it got to a point that I realized I need to grow out of it, because these people, they've grown, they've changed, and they've matured. And it came to a point that somebody contacted me and said, hey, I apologize for the way that I've treated you. Can we be friends again? So the first step was saying, okay, there's an apology, and then reflecting together on how we can be better friends and make up for the past. That was the best self-reflection for me with my identity, at least. And now on power and privilege. So when we look at any sort of institution, the top of the institution is going to be power. Whoever holds the power holds diversity. They hold which direction anything is going to go. So ideally, when I think of privilege, I think we all have privilege to an extent, and some people have more privilege over others. And like I said, I think whoever holds power really holds the direction of where things will go in the field of diversity, whether they want more diversity or whether they want less, just more cis norms.
Thank you so much. Noreen, same question. When you hear the words power and or privilege, what comes to mind?
I think for me, power and privilege kind of go hand in hand. I feel like with power, it's not just something that you see, but I feel like it's something you feel. With privilege, we're all privileged one way or another. Some have more than others, but I feel like privilege is something you not only are given, but it's something you grow from. So with power, I feel like coming from like a different background personally, coming from like a minority background, not only being Muslim, but also a woman, I've been told I've never had that much power. But now that I'm telling myself that I have the power to do what I can, to do what I want, and to become what I need to be, I feel like that in and of itself is giving me power personally. So with the power, I feel like I also have been given the privilege, maybe not in a societal way, but in my own way. Like I've given myself that privilege to go out and do things. So I feel like there's two ways. There's that society privilege where you see people like, you know, who live in like big houses. They've had the privilege to do a lot in their lives. They've had the privilege given to them. There's that sense, but I feel like there's also that individual sense where you kind of get it on your own, where you make your own privilege, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. Yay. If I had an emoji right now, like I have all these screens up, I'd be like, yes, yes, I love it. Samantha McCray, same question. When you hear the word concept or the concepts of, you know, privilege and power, what do you think about?
Well, I guess I mostly think about privilege in a systemic way, where in history, white and male have mostly had all of the privilege and the power. And I really do think that the two go hand in hand, because usually those in power have the privilege to almost do whatever they want. And those with privilege do have power to almost in the same way do whatever they want. But I do think that it is a very systemic thing in having privilege. And I do agree with what Noreen said about giving yourself the power and thinking that like you have privilege in than others, and really like giving that to yourself and making yourself feel like, yeah, like I can have the power to do this, or like I am privileged enough to like do this.
Thank you so much for that. Ryan Ross, I know we're almost like down to the last couple of minutes. And I actually do want to ask you that same question. When you hear of the word or the concept of privilege and power, what do you think about? You're muted, Ryan.
Once again. I think privilege and power goes hand in hand, and just privilege gives an advantage to certain people to power. And I feel like it's something that is systemic, and it's not really a concept that I, as a Black male, have a lot of familiarity with, that I'm familiar with, because I am Black. I feel like on the other side of the spectrum of privilege. But I do have certain privileges, like being in California, having better weather. I have a privilege to better weather, I can go outside. I don't have I don't have to worry about certain things. Like I guess some countries, they have to worry about just the economic standpoints, but I feel like it does go hand in hand with power.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to take the last few moments of our session to just kind of go through around. And actually, let me go take this back. And Emily, let's start that ending piece of us. Why is it important for us to keep talking about diversity on campus? And we could have gone a couple of more hours with some of the themes that we had, but I do want to be mindful of our 1 hour. Emily, jump on in, the water's warm. Why is it important for us to talk about diversity at College of the Canyons?
I wish we had more time. I think talking about diversity like really helps others see how important inclusivity is, and like respect everyone around you, not just people like in your own group.
I love it. Thank you so much. Brian is there.
Oh my God.
Oh, so sorry.
No, like I had to shorten it because I didn't want to go past
It's all you, Emily. It's okay. Keep going.
And also, like it's also like important, like it's important because it helps us like you said, it's like to self-reflect, like where do they come from, what is their background, and in the end it just like might surprise us to learn like how much bias and stereotypes like people can really cloud like our judgments, and which is why diversity is important on campus, because hopefully it can stop our biases and our stereotypes.
Challenge, right? Brian, jump on in. Thank you, Emily.
Absolutely. I think it is important for inclusivity. And just like Emily said, I loved how she put it. I absolutely agree with her.
Thank you so much, Brian. Samantha McCray.
I really think it's important because this is a place where I mean, obviously it is a learning institution, but you're not only learning academically, but you're also learning just to be a human being and to be in society. And so if you don't learn about diversity here, then where else are you going to learn it?
Oh, yes. I love it. Woo! Ryan Ross.
I think it's important because we are in Southern California, and which is one of the most diverse places in the whole world. And it needs to be diverse, as Samantha said, in order to work together with people. And I just think if it's not diverse, then as I said, we're like kind of stuck in a cage. We need to communicate with each other. We need to come together as people, and it just guides us through the future because we're getting more diverse, and that's just the way it's going. So we need to continue the conversation.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Ryan. And Noreen.
I mean, this is a topic we can go on for hours. And I think that these amazing individuals already like summed it up. But, you know, having diversity it's everything in our society now. We've grown from what we were 40 years ago, and we need to continue that at that rate to make sure that we do break down these biases that exist, these stereotypes, and diversity, having inclusive society and culture within our own campus is going to be that first step to make sure that our students are happy and safe and they feel welcome on campus.
Thank you so much. I don't smoke, and but I'd be like this if I did right now. So, but very well said. Very well said. Shameless plug. We are going to have an open mic night on a Thursday from 5 to 6. Please jump on in. We would love to hear your voice in this event as part of our overall African American Black History Month event celebration through the Multicultural Center. You just log on to COC and then do MCC. And on the right-hand side, you'll put in your last name, first name, and what you will want to say. It could be a poem, a lyric, a picture, a childhood memory, something that sort of like, you know, wants to tell a story, and it needs you to tell a story. Please join us. As far as today's session, I applaud you all. Thank you all so much. I'm super privileged and thankful for all of you, Noreen, Ryan, Brian, Emily, Samantha, and thank you all again for joining us. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.